First off, very excited about this opportunity for Georgia Southern and our football team to be able to go to the Raycom Media Camellia Bowl down in Montgomery, Alabama. So we're very excited about that. And, this opportunity is something that we don't take lightly, for being able to do it in 2015 and go to Mobile and have a bowl game. That was something that was very special for Georgia Southern. And so, again, 2 years of not being able to go, excited about this, excited about a great opponent in Eastern Michigan, and just excited that we're going to have this opportunity to go down and just show what Georgia Southern football is about.
Coach, what do you know about Eastern Michigan? What do you expect?
Well, the little bit I've been able to look at them, what's really impressive is they've won their last 3 games. They've actually won 5 of their last 6, and one of those losses coming to a top 25 team in Army. And then also, too, them beating Purdue, who's beaten Ohio State. So, obviously, a really good opponent, really good football team.
To have just a short period of time to prepare for these guys, to know who you're going to play and then to get ready for it, how do you change the schedule? What changes during the week as you get ready for a bowl game with less than 2 weeks?
Well, there's a lot of things that we got to factor in right now. We're right in the middle of a contact period in recruiting, and with a mid-year signing day, that's something that we got to juggle. Also, too, we're going into finals weeks with our players, so obviously our guys are looking to finish well in the classroom. So we've got to make sure that we do a good job of putting a good plan together that's advantageous in both the recruiting and also, too, in what our players are needing to do in finishing the semester, but also make sure that we put a good plan in place to be able to go try to get a win in a bowl.
Coach, I know going into the season you had a lot of goals, and you guys were checking those off as you were going along. You didn't get one of them, which was to win a Sun Belt Conference championship, but going to a bowl was one. Now, how important is it to finish the drill, and was winning a bowl game or 10 wins, was that on the list for this year?
Well, we didn't put 10 wins, but we did put, get eligible for a bowl, and we put to win a bowl game, and that always needs to be the goal. Again, we're playing a great opponent in Eastern Michigan, so it'll be really tough. We got to make sure we go to work and do what we've done this year to be able to win ball games. But yes, that was one of our goals to go win a bowl.
Coach, you mentioned this week being an important one as far as recruiting goes, and last year things are kind of up in the air. Coaches who would be around again or on their way out are kind of up in the air. How much easier is it this year with recruiting, being able to not only have everything in place, but also to be able to point to a game that made a big turnaround and is going to be playing again in a couple weeks?
Well, recruiting is obviously different for us this year because we did have a staff in place. And we've been able to get out and do a lot more legwork and homework and work to get guys on campus and that type of thing. So I think things are coming along pretty good in that situation, in that we're getting guys that fit our schemes and fit what we want to do with the Georgia Southern man here at Georgia Southern. Obviously winning, getting some wins this year, having a good season, that's been very important because that's gotten excitement by recruits about us. So again, being able to go down to a bowl, be able to be on TV again in a bowl game, I think that's very big for us when it comes to recruiting.
Coach, the seniors have been through this before. They know a little bit about it. But when they played, it was their first time, and you guys were pretty successful. Maybe came out of the gates a little slow. Is there anything that you learned from the first bowl experience that you feel like will help when you guys go for this one?
Well, I think this time, obviously we do have some players that made that trip. And I think that helps with the young guys that maybe haven't done this before, because our guys are a tight-knit group, and they really listen to one another, and the leaders of this team do a really good job with them. So I think that's an advantage. Obviously, having the opportunity to go earlier, that allows me to, we're going to the GoDaddy Bowl in 2015. That allows me to maybe change some things up that maybe didn't go well when we went down there, but maybe stick to some things that did work out well for us. So we'll lean on some of those experiences and try to make sure we put our best plan in place.
Talking about momentum, to have a bowl invite, to know you're going somewhere, how much does that help on the recruiting trail? You're out there over the next week or so as you're talking to players and say, we're back in a bowl game, Georgia Southern's where it's supposed to be. How much does that help get the momentum going even further?
Again, I think after last season and then coming into this season and being able to turn it around and getting back to our winning ways, again, I think that adds to the excitement. But obviously, anytime that you can talk about your your team going to a bowl and that we are bowl eligible and this is what we did during the season, that brings a lot more excitement to those guys, and those guys really pay attention to that type of stuff.
How vital was it this past week to not have a game this week and give those guys some rest and focus on school and kind of relax for a week?
Again, I think it was really big because I think there was, the season, we had a bye week early, and then, it was a long stretch, it was a long run, and the guys did a really good job with that, and I think that week was much needed. We did get a couple practices in, but it also allowed them to, get focused in on their academics and be able to finish this week with finals. So, again, I think that was a plus, but we got to get back into a routine also so that we're getting done what we need to get done.
Coach, you saw the Georgia Southern fan base in the Atlanta area come out for the Georgia State game. Having this game in Montgomery should be a big advantage for you guys as far as the number of fans that you're going to have travel. How do you feel about that?
We talked about that all year. Lots of times we talked about the power of Paulson and our ability to play at home. And then, we struggled a little bit on the road. And toward the end of the season, we quit talking about the power of Paulson and we started talking more about the power of Eagle Nation. And, and that was something that really showed up. Coastal, we had a great crowd show up, and then Georgia State, unbelievable crowd show up in Atlanta and, really take over. And we were able to feed off that energy. So us being in Montgomery, an hour and a half, 2 hours from Atlanta, real easy for our alumni base and our fans to be able to get down there. We're expecting a big crowd and looking forward to being able to feed off of that.
Coach, I know you haven't had much time to look at the opponent, but what does Eastern Michigan look like as far as anybody that we may have already faced this year? I'm probably going to have to hold off on answering that because I really haven't been able to study film like that. I mean, we just found out. So, all I've really been able to do is look at stats and really look at what they've done throughout their season as far as on paper. So I haven't really been able to watch a lot of film.
With the first and second teams, you're going to spend the next couple of weeks preparing for Eastern Michigan, but this is still a pretty young team. How much does it help for the guys who might not play in the bowl but are going to be big parts of this team moving forward to have those extra few practices under their belt?
Yeah, we're going to end up having around about 12 extra practices before we play the game. So now, once you get into game week, it's a little bit more of a structured of this is what we do on game week. Now, leading up to that game week, last week we were able to get a lot of scrimmage in with the young guys. We were able to get a lot of individual and fundamental time in with the young guys. And so it's really like an extra spring practice for us, and I think that's really big going into the 2019 season.
Coach, can you just describe for us in Eagle Nation the amount of hunger that's in the locker room right now and coming from the season last season, and then the amount of work that was put in this season and how much hunger they have right now?
I think that's something that our guys have been really good about all off-season and all-season, just trying to stay hungry. They had something to prove coming off of last year, and I think, again, you asked that question, how hungry are they? I mean, they better be really, really hungry, because anytime you got an opportunity to finish your season, you want to finish it on a high note, and if you don't, then you're going to have to go back to the drawing board because you're only as good as your last game. So I know the guys are really fired up about this and fired up about their opportunity.